This is a new 2020 VW Atlas Cross Sport, and it's the best looking Atlas ever. The new Cross Sport has a stylish and sporty exterior and a massive and sleek cabin within. So how is the Cross Sport different from a regular Atlas, and is this an SUV you should consider? Keep watching and find out. I want to thank the Auto Barn, Volkswagen, and Countryside. They made this video possible, so if you're in the market for a brand new or used Volkswagen, check them out. Their URL is on the screen and in the description below. Today I'm behind the wheel of a 2020 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. Now I know a lot of you guys watching are probably wondering, okay, what's the difference between the Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport? Well, I'm glad you asked, so let's start with those differences. The Cross Sport is a smaller version of the Atlas. It's another way for Volkswagen to introduce another SUV in their lineup. This time they took the Atlas platform and they shrunk it about 3 inches in length. They cut the roof down about 2 inches lower, and they made it look a lot better. So the Atlas Cross Sport is a sportier version and a two-row version of the very popular Atlas. Despite being 3 inches shorter, the cargo room is still enormous. And as you can see, you can pretty much put whatever you want. There's not a lot of storage spaces, unfortunately, but you do get a ton of cargo room. Because there's no third row, and there's an already enormous amount of cargo room back there, VW said, why not move the second row back a little bit? So you actually get more legroom, about 3 inches to be exact, more legroom in the second row versus an Atlas, which is pretty amazing. And if you look at the second row space, it's enormous. I'm 5'10", and take a look. I probably have 10 to 12 inches of legroom left. That is enormous behind my usual driving position. The only caveat to that is the headroom. I only have about 2 to 3 inches. So those of you guys that are taller side, that have a really tall torso and not legs, you might still find it cramped in here because of the headroom. And that's because Volkswagen decided to lower the roof of this Atlas Cross Sport about 2 inches to make it look sportier and more sleek on the outside. You could definitely tell there's a raked roof on the outside. And if they didn't do that, then yeah, you would have a bit more headroom. Unfortunately, that's the case. You get an enormous amount of legroom, but not so much in terms of headroom. And there's the same thing up here too, because I'm sitting quite high in the cabin. So when I'm in here, I'm fine. But when I'm actually sitting in, getting into the driver's seat, I have to make sure I duck down quite a bit to be able to fit and not hit my head. It's a weird feeling on such a big SUV. The front end is basically what's going on the 2021 Atlas that is going to hit showrooms in about a month. Yeah, in April, you're going to get a 2021 Atlas. The 2020 Atlas, which just got released with basically no changes, it's going to have a very, very short lifespan. So you're going to have the 2021 model out, and it's basically going to look like this on the front. Now the back is totally different. You look at the back of this Cross Sport, it's like a coupe-like look, very edgy, very wide. You know, it looks good. It looks really good. Now that I have some speed here, I'm on this freeway going about 50 miles per hour. I gotta say, it's really, really comfortable right now. It's very quiet. Super quiet, in fact. It's very well insulated. I don't hear anything. No wind noise, no road noise. Engine, I don't really hear anything. On my way back, I'll go a little bit faster and see if that changes. And the suspension is really soft. It's a nice suspension. This one I'm driving, the SEL, has 20-inch wheels, so the wheels are bigger. But man, this is smooth right now. This is very smooth. Again, on the way back, I go through this really rough patch of freeway, so I'll see how the suspension is then. But right now, this is a very comfortable ride. I mentioned about sitting high in the cabin, and I do like that. The negative is, you know, with the seat so high, you got to watch out for your head when you're getting in, especially those of you guys on the taller side. But once you're inside, you're sitting high in the cabin. I can see well over the hood. That's now no problem. The windows, blind spot is all good, and you get a very commanding view of the road, so that's good. Now, in terms of the cabin, this is pretty much straight out of Atlas, and that's not a bad thing. You know, a lot of edges, a lot of creases, a lot of blackness and gray, not a lot of colors going on in here, but I think some of you guys will appreciate that. It works, and it looks good, and it looks modern and sleek. Now, one thing that I'm a big fan of is this digital cockpit. It's a 10-inch screen that basically replaces your gauge cluster, and you can scroll through various things, oil temperature, coolant, trip computer, fuel economy, all that good stuff, but you could configure it. You could have different views so that you can remove the speedometer, tachometer if you don't want to see it, you want to see more things. It's really cool. And you know what? I've tested other Volkswagen with it too. Some where it's like class leading. Now in the midsize SUV, you do see more of this kind of setup, but still, this is a very nice digital cockpit. Also, the infotainment screen I like. It's a large 8-inch screen, very responsive, very high res. As you can see here, looking behind you, you could see well behind you, and it works well. It works really well, and I like it. And you get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You get the latest Volkswagen CarNet, which is a subscription service to help you with various things. You get Wi-Fi on there, Wi-Fi hotspot if you wanted to, also emergency services. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that you can get on there if you choose to subscribe. Now, besides the beautiful screens in here, in terms of other features, you get a lot. You get wireless charging, you got plenty of USB ports over here. You have a very large panoramic sunroof, which I'm a big fan of. It lets so much light in here. You can get heated seats, unfortunately not ventilated seats in here. And you do get a button to shut off the engine auto start stop if you wanted to. That's always nice. This right here is kind of weird. I keep looking to see if there's any screens here, right? Because this is usually like a small area. A lot of manufacturers like to put some info up there, but this is nothing. This is just like a shelf space. So I think this is kind of weird. But outside of this spot, I mean, a dash, door panels, you know, most things in here where you would touch is soft plastic or leather, so that's good. But you do still have some spots here, like down here where it's hard plastic, so those little areas could be improved. But overall, the design in here is well laid out. So in this Atlas Crosssport, you also get this dial here where you have different terrain modes where you can go through off-road, snow, normal driving conditions, and you could kind of customize it yourself. But besides terrain modes, you also have just driving modes where you can go with eco, sport, and custom. And it's kind of cool when you go in custom, you can change things, like if you want to change your steering, your suspension, you could customize it however you want. So you do get that in here, and that's pretty nice. All right, I just put this Crosssport in sport mode. Let's test out acceleration. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I bet some of you guys are wondering what engine is in this Atlas Crosssport. Well, you get two different kinds, and this one is actually the 4-cylinder, the 2-liter turbocharged engine that on paper looks very underwhelming. About 230-ish horsepower, about 260 pound-feet of torque, but because this is a turbo engine, that torque comes in roughly around 1600 RPM. So that 0 to 60 actually didn't feel bad at all. You would figure on such a large SUV, 235 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque just won't cut it. But in fact, that wasn't bad. I mean, it's not the quickest SUV, but it certainly got up to 60 in a decent amount of time. Luckily, you have a V6 that you could also choose if you want a bit more power.
But you know what? Honestly, this 4-cylinder isn't bad. Now, unfortunately, what is bad is the fuel economy isn't so good. I mean, combined, you're only getting 20 miles per gallon combined with this 4-cylinder and all-wheel drive. And if you go with the V6, it's 1 miles per gallon less combined overall. So in terms of fuel economy, definitely on the lower side for this class. All right, now you guys can see this is a pretty rough patch of freeway. A lot of, patches, divots, bumps, and the suspension is a little bit harsher. But overall, very controlled. I don't feel this crosssport, as high as it is and as big as it is, I didn't feel like I was like losing control, like the body was floating around. It was actually very controlled. Now, something else that you get with the crosssport is more driver assistant features, and that's carrying over into the 2021 Atlas, but you get in the crosssport first. So basically everything you could think of in terms of, emergency braking, advanced warning of a collision, lane warning, lane sway warning, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, everything you could think of. Now you also get the ability to read the signs. So whatever the speed limit is, the system will be able to read auto high beam, rear cross traffic alert. Basically everything you could think of is in here, and that's good, because before these things were, like an optional thing that you have to pay more money for. Now you don't, it's included. I'm actually getting a lot of looks. A lot of people are actually quite interested in this Atlas crosssport because honestly, it does look pretty stunning. It does look very unique, and I think that's a big plus, because most cars I review, I never get a second look, and I'm noticing a lot of people actually taking a look at this crosssport, which is a surprise. It's a good surprise. So in terms of steering, it's actually really good too. Take a look. There's not a lot of play, and it has a good, precise feel. And when you combine that with this amazing suspension, I really like this steering. I think this is a fantastic steering setup. And the steering wheel is not bad either. It's a good look. It's covered in this leatherette material. And speaking of leatherette, everything in here is all leatherette, all the seats and everything. So, it's good and it's bad. It's good that it's easier to clean, it looks good, it'll last long, it's durable, right? And on the lower trims of this Atlas crosssport, which starts around $31,000, it makes sense. But as you go up, in the trims and get to $40,000 and $50,000, then leatherette doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that's the trade-off. It's good and it's bad, but it doesn't feel bad. And in terms of the seats, I feel like it's holding me in, even though this leatherette does feel a little slippery, but the bolsters in the back is holding me in. It's not very uncomfortable. It's a good size. I'm a fairly wide, big guy, and I'm pretty comfortable in here. Same thing with the bottom thigh support. Overall seat comfort is good. It's good.
As for trim levels and pricing, for the 2-liter turbo engine, there are 3 trim levels with front-wheel drive and 3 trim levels with all-wheel drive. The base S starts around $30,545 and tops out with the SE with 4Motion at $37,845. That is the one I'm testing today. With the V6, there are 4 trim levels that all have all-wheel drive. The base starts right under $40,000 and the tops out around $45,000. Next, let's look at the good and bad to this brand new Atlas crosssport. Starting with the good. The crosssport has a coupe-like exterior design. There's enormous cabin room and cargo room. It has very comfortable suspension and great steering. There's lots of low-end torque. You do get a commanding drive with a great view. And finally, the digital cockpit and infotainment system are great. As for the bad, you have poor fuel economy. Leatherette seating with a higher trim should be replaced with real leather. The crosssport does lack headroom, and this will be a problem for those of you guys on our taller side. And finally, because of the massive size of the Cross Sport, getting in and out of tight spaces might be a problem. I really enjoyed my time with the VW Cross Sport. It provided a quiet and comfortable ride with an enormous amount of room. The outside also looks great. Poor fuel economy is what's holding back the Cross Sport from being at the top of the midsize SUV segment. To see how it compares with others, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future reviews, first looks, or news. And check out these other videos.